Hello and welcome to another StoreTender instructional video. With the recent release of version 8.2 of StoreTender, we introduced a new and far more flexible point-of-sale screen design system. With this new architecture, you will be able to create up to 100 screens per store location. Each store register can have the same or a unique starting screen. If you are upgrading from version 8.1.5 or earlier, any custom screens or register shortcuts along the gray shortcut bar will have to be recreated. This video will give you complete instructions on how to configure your point-of-sale screens. And as you can see, I don't have any shortcuts here on the left-hand side. I do have a couple of buttons for my direct rings and custom screens and deli menu, and I'm going to show you how how we can create these buttons. So first thing we're going to do is exit out of the point of sale. And we're going to go to the Screen Designer. The Screen Designer can be found in StoreTender Pro by going to Setup, then going to Store, Other, and then finally clicking on the Screens button. Now, here I've got screen number 1, and the screen numbers are listed right here. You can change through screens by just clicking the up or the down arrow. And you can see that I've got 100 screens here. If I clicked all the way through, you'd see them. Well, we'll start on screen number 1. And then each button has a number. And as you can see here, this is button number 2. When you look over to the right, you'll see button selected as number 2. That really isn't that important. We're just going to be able to click and work on any button that we like. You can set a security level for each button. So let's say, for example, I wanted to secure my refund button. First thing I'm going to have to do is, of course, click Edit. This blue bar down here is how we navigate in and out of these screens, or how we find different screens. By clicking Find, you'll see my list of screens right here. I'm going to close this. So anyway, we're on the refund button. I'm going to press Edit so I can edit this screen now. At security, right now, if I set this to security 1, anyone with a security level of 1 or higher can access this function. Security is set on permissions. In the permission screens, you can set security levels from 1 to 9, keeping in mind that 1 is always the lowest security, 9 is always the highest. So if you're the business owner, you want to schedule yourself as being security level number 9. So I've gone ahead and I've secured the refund. Let's say refund, we're going to make a manager, and I'm going to put all my managers at security level 5. So if somebody who's got a security level of 3 tries to click this, they're going to get a prompt that says that another manager or someone higher with a higher security level needs to sign in so that this function will be allowed. This checkbox here says whether or not this button is visible or not. You can just click that and make it invisible. Click it again to make it visible. You also can use the hide function to make numerous buttons visible or invisible. And by turning off hide, we can just click them and bring them back again. This title is the title of this particular screen. It's my main screen. In the refund, we'll go back to refund here, function. We have a huge list of functions that you can assign to buttons, starting from regular numbers to cash tenders, accounts, account balances, whatnot. So you can go through. We're going to provide a list for you guys below the page where this video is posted that gives you a rundown of all the different functions that are available. This particular function is refund. It's already been selected. This is the macro. Now, a macro is basically a code representation of what that function does. So for in this case, the macro for a refund is left bracket 33, right bracket. And finally, I've got the button text. What do I want the button to say? Do I want it to say refund, or do I want it to say refunds? If I change it, you can see that changes the button right here. I can make the text bold if I wanted to. Of course, by making it bold, you see I've lost one of the letters because it's too large. So I'll make that a little bit less bold. I believe I have to make it small. There we go. Perfect. And of course, I can also change the color of the text. Some buttons require black text. Some look better with white text. You can see if I change this text to black, that's really not very readable. We don't want to stick with that. So I'm going to just go ahead and click that again. And if you didn't follow, when I click bold here, it actually took bold off. Bold was actually what it already was. So by taking it off, it made it a little bit too large. So if I go down a little bit and then click bold on again, and go down, oops, there we go. You can play with these tools right here at the bottom. These are the font size up or down. And so you can just kind of play with them and get the text the size that you really want. Now here I have shapes. I'm going to move off of the refund. I'm going to go right here to this gray button here because I want to be able to show you the different shapes that you can use for buttons. Right now this button is this shape. If I wanted to make it double wide, I just click that button. And if I wanted to make it double tall instead, I'd click that. And of course, if I wanted to make it quad, I'd click the big quad button. It's the top left section that determines how far you can go. So for example, if I'm working down here, I can't make a quad because I can't go below here. There's no buttons below this spot. So the only way, and as you can see, the quad disappeared here. So the only way I can make another quad is if I went up one. And now it would extend that, and I can just click quad right there. But I'm going to make these back to single. And of course now, what happened to these buttons? They're all gone. Well, it's a simple matter. You can just click the empty spot and bring back the buttons. Let's talk about changing button colors. We'll go back here to refunds. I can change the color, any color I want. And as you can see, we've got a total of 12 different color shades that can be used. So if you'd like to group your buttons by color, and that's what I suggest, it'll help keep your eyes, make it a little bit easier for you to see which group of buttons do what. And if you kind of color code buttons of the similar type, it'll make it a lot easier for your cashiers when they're ringing out items. Then there's some tools down here. The tools, oh, by the way, also I should mention, there's tooltips everywhere throughout the software, and they really explain what everything does. So if you ever have a question, you're not sure, well, what does the shape do? What does the surface do? What do the tools do? Here it talks about font up, font down, what the swap button does, what the copy, paste, and whatnot. But I'll go through these for you. The tools, this button here is font size up, font size down. You just click it, and it makes the font bigger or smaller. Here is the swap button. If I wanted to move two buttons and swap their places, I would click swap, then I'd click my first button, then I'd click my second button. And as you can see now, refunds and discount, they've switched places. If I want to swap it again, there we go. So the swap button stays on until you turn it off. The copy button will copy from a button that you click on the color, the font size, the font style. It does not copy the actual function, but it's a good way for you to make all your buttons sort of look the same. So for example, if I wanted this entire row to look just like that row, I would copy and then paste. And as you can see now, they're all white. Now what if I wanted to make them, or red, I'm sorry, what if I wanted to make them white again? I would go to the white one and I'd click copy and then I'd paste. And as you can see, we're copying all the formatting right back. And of course hide we talked about. That's a good way to hide buttons so they don't show up. And if you click on an empty space, the button comes back. And finally clear. If I wanted to clear a button of its functions completely, let's see, I'm going to clear the 0 here. That button is now just a button with the color, but the function itself is gone. Now I actually You need to keep that as a 0, so I'm going to put my 0 function back. Of course, here we have our, I'm going to cancel this save. Here we have our close button, find, edit, save, and help. So once we're done with everything, you would save the file, and then if you wanted to get out of this program, you would close. You might be tempted to use this close button way up here in the top left, but that doesn't work like the POS screen. That's the actual button that you can edit. So this button is how you'd actually step out of this program. If you need to find a screen, you click find, and you get your list of all your different screens. The ones that just say screen number, that's just because it's a blank screen or you haven't changed the text. But for example, if I wanted to move to my deli menu screen, I could do so. And here we've created this screen from scratch using the deli menu function. And finally, the last button that you can see here is help. And if you need any help on anything, just click the help button and you can watch the online documentation. And actually this video tutorial will be here shortly when you press the video tutorial button. So that's the point of sale screen designer. So maybe we should take a look at creating a new screen. So I'm going to go to a screen that I happen to know is blank, which is screen number 5. So you've got 3 different columns. You've got a column of 2, a column of 4, and a column of 2. You have an option. This button right here will get rid of these. And so by clicking that, and of course I forgot, you need to press edit. By clicking this button here, it squeezes everything together so there's no column breaks. That's just an option you have. You can do that or get rid of them. It's up to you. Every time you click this, it will trigger a save. So whatever you've done, whatever work you've done, will actually save and then it'll move. So just so you're aware of that. Also on the main screen, and I'm going to go back to the main screen just so you can see it. On the main screen, we have the ability to reset this button back to its defaults. So if I have made any changes, this will reset to the current screen. This main screen is the only screen that's predefined for you. So let's say you change this whole screen up and you decide you don't like what you've done. You can click this button and it will bring it back to its default state. And you can begin work on it again. So let's go back. I'm going to cancel this change. We're going to find that screen number 5 and we're going to go back here. So now I think I'm going to go ahead and close these up a little bit. So one of the first things you want to be able to do is you want to be able to exit this screen and get back to the main screen somehow. So it's very important that you always remember that when you're working with screens, leave yourself some way out of this screen and back to the main screen. I'm going to create a button right here. It's red. And I'm going to call it, I'm going to find my screen number function. This is going to take me to a particular screen number. So when I press this button, it's going to go to a screen number. This is the macro for that, but it doesn't know what screen number to go to yet. Right now, it just says screen number. We have to tell it. Any button or any function that requires more information, for example, screen number or a PLU, anything that relies on a different table needs to be able, you need to be able to put that modifier right in front of it. And so you can use this lookup. In this particular case, since I'm using screen number, I'm going to use my lookup and I'm going to say I want to go back to screen 1, which is my main screen. The main screen has a special number. It's 201. That's because you can't really get necessarily rid of it. You can change it, but we need to be able to get back to it. So this will give me right back to screen number 1. And then of course my button text is the name of the screen. If I wanted to add something like maybe a left arrow, that lets you know that I'm exiting out of here. So what are we going to put on this screen? Well, I think that a lot of businesses use open department buttons. They have items that are not scannable and they want to be able to add a price and then press the button. So one of the first things we're going to do, since we need to add a price, is we need to add a keyboard. This keyboard is going to help me work with items that don't have a price on them that we want to set the price. You can set this anywhere you want. Of course, if I'm using a button way down here, there's no keyboard. Why? Because that's the top left, and I can't go further down. If I go up here, you'll see I'll be able to use the keyboard. I'm going to go ahead and set my keyboard right here, and then I'm just going to press this button, and it's going to automatically populate it for me. Now, I want to go ahead and add some items here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and make these double wide because I know that I don't have a whole lot, but I've got enough. And let's pretend that I was going to go ahead and completely fill this screen up. Now I'm going to go ahead and use my function, and I'm going to find what's called an open PLU. And here's my open PLU function. And now I'm going to find the actual product. So if you've got a product that you've already determined has zero price and you're going to use for your open grocery or whatnot, you would put that in there. In this particular case, I'm just going to go ahead and pick a product, Cheerios, and as you can see, the macro here now says bracket 36. It's got a long number. That's the actual PLU number, and then it's got a 46. The bracket 36 says this is going to be a price change. Take the numbers that I put in first and make that the price. Here's the product that you're going to ring in, and then this 46 code says, and by the way, that number that's right here is the product number. So now I've got an open PLU. I'm going to call this open grocery. And of course, if you already had a product named open grocery and you use that, that would be what would be here. Now I'm going to go ahead and pick another open PLU. I'm going to pick another product, and I'm going to call this Open Deli. Okay, so now I've got a couple of open PLUs, Open Grocery and Open Deli. I'm going to change the color of these buttons. I'm going to make that one green, that one green. And you can continue on this way, making all these buttons however you like. If you want to make them larger, just make them larger. Just click the quad, and now you've got a couple of big buttons. Now, because they're big buttons, the text isn't quite large enough. So I'm going to click up 3 spaces here, and now they're nice and easy to read. Now, this is screen number 5. This is important that you kind of jot this down somewhere because you need to be able to get back to screen number 5 somehow. So I'm going to save this, and now I'm going to go back to my main screen. And I'm going to put a button here that directs me to screen 5. So I'm going to call this my open department. So if we remember, we need to go to screen number. And I'm going to find my screen 5. I should have probably renamed that screen. I'm going to make it green because that's the color of the buttons I picked earlier. I'm going to change the name here to open departments. Yeah. That's a little bit, you can see here the font's a little too large, so I might just go a little small. Or leave it large and maybe don't use such a large word. Open department. There we go. So now that fits, the font size is the same as all the other screens and it looks good. Now I'm going to save this. And so now we can go back out to the point of sale. And we're going to run this real quick and we're going to see what we just created. So here's my open department, and I want to sell $2.99 grocery, $2.99 grocery. Of course, I didn't use a product that said open grocery, but if I had, that's exactly what it would say. And then I'm going to go back to my main menu. Now, what if you want to be able to have a button, once you press it, go back to the main menu all by itself? Well, we can work that out too. Let's go ahead and close this. I'm going to go ahead and find this screen. And I'm going to edit this, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the title back. Open department, so that we have that. So here's my open grocery button. Now, I want this to actually go back to the main screen. Well, we remember that the main button right here sends me to 201. So why don't we just add a bracket 201 close bracket. What this function now says is do exactly what it did before and go back to the main screen. So let's go ahead and test this out. Open department, $2.99. Open grocery, and as you can see, it snapped me right back to the main point of sale screen. So that's a real handy tool. You want to remember that. 201 will get you back to the main screen, and it's bracket, left bracket, 201, right bracket, or whatever other screen. If you get really creative with this, you can go screen to a screen to a screen, and then you can go back to certain screens or forward to other screens. Let's say, for example, you were a business that sold admission tickets and that's all you sold. Well, maybe you just have one large screen that immediately goes to a tender window after it's done. And you've created a screen that instead of having all of these green buttons here, you only accept cash. So you've got a screen with one large cash button, or you've got a screen with a couple of different tender types. You want to be able to ring that item out and immediately go to the tender. You can do that with this system. It's very flexible. Now, another thing we need to talk about is the new food service menu. The food service products actually go to a specialized menu that we have, a specialized screen that we have that allows you to select the modifiers, and we can talk about that product and that functionality at a different video. But one thing you want to make sure is that when you have deli products, you also have some way of modifying that deli product when you've sold it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cancel my changes right here, and I'm going to go ahead and find my deli menu, which I created. As you can see here, I created this with a back button. I've also got a service type button, dine in or carry out. We need to be able to specify whether or not the customer is dining in or carrying out or driving through, because there's different tax levels in a lot of states that charge different rates depending on how the person is eating the food. So it's important that we have these. In this particular example, I just have two different types. You can either dine in here or you can carry out. You may have three. You can set in register preferences what a particular register number's status is always going to be, that it's always going to be dine in or always going to be carry out. You can always change it at the point of sale by pressing one of the buttons, but at the very least you can set it so that it picks one as a default. In this particular menu, I just went ahead and put these two buttons here, and I've also put the modify item button, and here's the function right here for it, modify item. What this allows you to do is after you've rung up an item, you can press modify item, then click on the item in the register screen, and that'll let you go back to the modification screen where you can make changes. If the person says, oh, by the way, I don't want pickles on that burger, you're going to have to modify that item if you didn't do it before. And so it's a quick, easy way, but it's one of those buttons that you just don't want to forget, because once you start selling food items, you're going to want to be able to make a modification, just like you always want to remember to have a back button to get you back to the main screen. You know, there's a lot of different ways you can configure this. A lot of customers have removed all of the tender and just have a simple quad button that says tender screen, and that actually goes. We'll make a screen number button, and we're going to move this to screen 6, and I'm going to call this tender screen, or tender, and make this nice and big. So right now I can go ahead and hide all of these buttons, and all I'm doing is I'm going to get rid of all these buttons, because I'm going to have a big tender button that takes me to a screen that has all of these buttons, maybe much larger or spaced out a little bit differently. Maybe I want to use this blank space so I can have more open department buttons or direct item buttons. So that's one way you can, really use this space. A lot of people like to take some of these yellow buttons and consider them to be manager functions, or some of these red buttons and consider them to be manager functions. So they'll create a screen called manager screen, and they'll just have one button that goes to manager screen that's got 15 or 16 different functions on it that they want to restrict to a particular level. So you're really free to recreate these any way you want. I'm going to go ahead and put my buttons back. If there was a button there and you've not cleared it, you've just hidden it, you can just click on the empty space and that button will come back so that you can use it again. Now I also want to show you where you can set up some things for your register that have to do with your point of sale screen. For example, which screen do I go to when this particular register starts up? So let's go to, from the main menu, we're going to go to Setup, and we're going to go to Register, and then we're going to go to Preferences. Now here on the Preferences is where you're going to decide what's the home screen number. And you can just go ahead and tick up or down to change the home screen number. Also, while you're here, you can also set your default food service mode to being dine-in, carry-out, drive-through, or no mode whatsoever, in which case you have to select one of these each time you go to ring out an item, a food service item. Thank you very much for your attention. Hopefully you'll have a lot of fun using the Screen Designer and creating some interesting and custom screens for yourself. If you'd like to, you can always take a screen capture of your screen once you've finished it and send it over to support@storetenderonline.com, and we'll take a look at it, and we're going to be making a collection of screens so that everybody can kind of see what other folks are doing and maybe help get some ideas of how to create your screens. So again, thanks a lot for your time, and take care.